So in this video we are starting about how the commands of Kubernetes work. So let recall what is Kubernetes, and I am thinking that you all know what is Kubernetes. So let's recall in short what is Kubernetes. Kubernetes is the orchestration and managing of the container that we run in Docker or containerd. So Kubernetes is mainly consists of two nodes or many more, the replicas of them, the master node and the worker node, mainly two nodes, the master node and the worker node. The master node had four components, which are API REST communicate, scheduler, control manager, and etcd. API REST is useful to communicate with the user, and the user can communicate to the cluster through API. Now the scheduler scheduling the things to, to, to the worker node. As the worker node works, the master node always command to the worker node what has to be done. So scheduler always scheduling the things to the worker nodes. The control manager controls the things what happening inside the worker node, what are the things dies, what are the things have to be up. And the last etcd, which has store the key value pair, which is used for uh, taking the backup if we have lost the information on the worker node. Now the worker node has the kubelet for communicating to the master node, and the kube proxy for the things to be managing within the worker node, the container network interface for the Docker or the containerd containers to run a layer upon them, so as to make a separate layer upon the containers. The container network interface communicating the containers within itself within a node. Now I am thinking that you are well being aware of what are ports, what are namespaces, what are services, what are ingress, secrets, config map, and nodes. So let's start. What are the commands of Kubernetes? Now, now I am making a VM. It's about 15 CPUs, 20 GB RAM, custom configurations, and they, they, no reply. Now that's with our configuration network GB space. So my VM is creating, it's loading. I am doing some sort of requirements for it to be run. So general make that. So until that my VM is being ready, let's talk about what are ports. Ports contain one or more container. Mainly it consists of one containers and rest are its supporters. Namespace is to divide the pods so as to the same working pods can define to a particular space so as to differentiate between them. The namespace is used. Services is used for, I will show you this thing and tell you this thing later. What are the ingress? Ingress is the thing to tell or to give away the users to get access to our cluster and to use the services that we offer to them. The secrets that store our secrets thing, the database, the secret. The config map also is a database, but it is not like secret. Nodes are the thing that we have studied here. The Kubernetes consists of two nodes, master node and worker node mainly. So nodes are this, and the master node always tell the worker node what to do, and master node has the right to see what the worker node is doing and what are the things that are going inside in it. Now let's go to our network. Now our network is set up, so we are starting our commands of Kubernetes. I'm accessing my VM and doing some sort to get it. Now so we are in our VM. Now let's start with commands. So for using the commands, we have to first install the Docker, because if there is no Docker, there is no controller or the orchestration managing of this. So firstly, we have the Docker installed. So I am updating. All things are up to date. Now that installed Docker for Kubernetes to work. Docker is being installed. So until Docker is being installed, let's have a look. We are making the cluster of Kubernetes through kubeadm. Kubeadm is the thing through which we can make a cluster. I'm using this mainly. Now Docker has been installed. So let's install kubeadm. And three things we are installing: kubelet, kubeadm, and kubectl. Kubectl is used for Kubernetes command. Kubeadm is used for making the cluster, and kubelet that we use in worker node for communicating to the master node. Now let's install this command one by one. Certificates and Google Cloud public signing key, all done. Now Google. Now we are Kubernetes app repository. All things set. Now installing and updating kubelet, kubeadm, and kubectl. So this is installing three things: kubelet, kubeadm, and kubectl, which I have tell you what they are doing. Mine -y is used for years. Container runtime interface tools, all set. Now we have to check kubeadm version. Yes, kubectl version. Okay. Now we have to make the cluster as these three things are stored. I am using flannel for container network interface, as kubeadm is most preferably used with flannel. So let's have to make a cluster. On master node we want to run. Uh, Before that we have one step. We have kubeadm config images full. We don't want to waste time in that command because this command takes too much time. Kubeadm config images full. This command pull all those images which are used in master and worker mode, such that we discuss here: etcd, control manager, scheduler, API REST, proxy, and core DNS through which it works. As we have seen, pulled Kube API server, Kube controller manager, Kube scheduler that we have used in master node. These are the images to work upon master node. Kube proxy, pause. Now etcd, core DNS are left. They are also pulling. etcd is done. Now core DNS is left. Core DNS is also full. Now let's copy our that command that we are using this. Now this command is going smoothly, that we have already done the step that this command is doing in between this. Now this command is going smooth. It is waiting for the kubelet to boot up the control plane. Now Kubernetes cluster has been, your Kubernetes control plane has initialized successfully. The control plane is the master node. It is a different name. Your Kubernetes control plane has initialized successfully. So starting using your cluster, you need to run the following as a regular user or the root user. As I am your root user, I am using this. Now I can access my all things. Now we are starting with the commands of Kubernetes. Kubernetes version. KL version. So we are going, as this command is, when I'm running this command kubectl version, this is in a vulgar format that I'm not understanding it properly. For making it to be understandable properly, we are doing this like of stuff that we want our output in YAML format so that we can understand what is this. So as we have seen in Docker that there are two things, the client and the server. Same here, we have to talk with the client and the client talks with the server. All things goes same, but this is orchestration of the container that we run in the Docker or the container team. So some small command uh, that I want to show you: the port command, the namespace, service command, ingress, secret, config mem, and node, and what are the things, the master node and worker node. So firstly we have to get our node. What are the nodes? kubectl get nodes. So there is one node which name Ubuntu and the status is not ready. The control pin which is the master node, 238 seconds and the version is. Why this is not ready? Let's see. What are the ports that run on this? kubectl get ports -a for all namespaces. Now namespace kube system. All the ports are belonging to the same namespace kube system. ODNS etcd cube API that we have pulled in the config images pool command, scheduler, and these two commands are pending. That means this status not ready is depending on these two commands. When these commands are running, this will change into ready. So as we using the flannel, so we have to firstly install the flannel. So for installing the flannel, we are using this command. Now running this, flannel has been installed and created. Config map kube flannel clg created daemon set. Now getting kubectl get ports -a. Now these two commands are being pending and in a running state. Now this is a command to watch ports. Watch kubectl get ports -a. Now we can watch every 2.0 second kubectl get ports. We can see what is going inside. Now how these two are pending. Now all things are running. That means after getting our nodes, the Ubuntu node is get ready. That's why as all the kubectl get ports -a, all the ports are being running. That's why this get node Ubuntu node gets ready. So our master node is being ready, and in this video I am only showing how to run basic command, not to joining the worker node to the master node. As if you want to join your worker node, the many worker nodes to your master node, you can use this command kubeadm join this token and this command. Then you can join any number of worker node by running the following on each other node. So you have to access the worker node through SSH command and then running this command on every worker node that you want to join to this cluster of the master node. So I'm not doing this, I'm only showing the command. So I'm starting the commands of the component of K8s. So as we know in our diagram that we are mainly focusing on core namespace services ingress secret config nodes. So let's first look upon how to get the ports. kubectl get ports. Now this is saying no resource found in default namespace. So if you are not mentioning which namespace are you want to know what are the ports, then this is taking the default namespace. Now we have to see what are the namespaces. Then kubectl get namespaces. Now we have four namespaces, five namespaces: default, kube flannel, kube node lease, kube public, and kube system. And all five are active. Now there is no port in the default namespace, as this is saying no resource found in default namespace. But if I want to know what are the ports running inside the namespace, hyphen is used for namespace within the kube system. So these are the pods that are running inside the kube system that we have pulled in the config images pull command. So these are the command which is used to making the master node and which are running on the kube system namespace. So the namespace is used to differentiate the ports into the similar category so as to differentiate themselves and not to making them mix in the pool of components, so as to separate the components so as to differentiate themselves and work properly for the orchestration. Now this command is similar for other namespaces also. kubectl get ports hyphen and default. By default it taking default, we have not to give hyphen and default because it's taking default by default. So kubectl get ports hyphen and I'm want to see into the kubeflanel namespace. So kubeflanel, so one pod is running in kubeflanel, which is this, and it is similar for other namespaces also. Now we have completed what are ports. Port is nothing but it is a abstraction layer over the containers which are running inside it, and the containers is running the image of an application. So port is the abstraction layer on the container, and we have understood what are namespaces. Let's see what are services. kubectl get services. So there is one services named Kubernetes cluster IP. This is the IP of services, and this is a port and TCP. If we want to know the whole wide thing of the port, then we have to use kubectl get ports hyphen a hyphen o wide. Uh, kubectl get it is taking gets. Now when we run kubectl get port hyphen a, we are seeing only this until this age. But by doing hyphen o wide, we can see the IP of each port and the node on which they are working. Nominated node and readiness gates, these are the different things that we are not covering in this video. So by doing hyphen o wide for the pod, we can also accessing the IP of each port and the node on which they are running. So now kubectl get services. So this is the services which is inside the Kubernetes cluster, which is used to provide the user access the ingress, and the ingress talk to the or communicate to the services part, and the services access the pod to which it to which the service is belonging. So firstly the user communicate to the ingress communicate to the service, and the service communicate to the pod where the services belong. So service is the middleware between the ingress or the user or the container. This is the service. Now we have to see what is the ingress. kubectl get ingress. So no default, no resource found in default namespace. So we have to change kubectl get ingress minus namespace. We have to see in flannel, flannel. No resource. We want to no. So the ingress part is not there. We have to create this ingress part, but we are not covering this. We are only covering the basic command of Kubernetes in this video. Now we have completed code, namespace, services, ingress. Now secret, config map. What are secret? Secrets are the things that we store our data with a password that we do not want to share with anyone. So kubectl get services. So this is the services which is in the default namespace. We can also try services for SRV. Something is different. Services SRVC. For service, there is a shorthand. We have to declare it through a alias command, alias command. But let's know about what are the config map. kubectl get config map. Okay. kubectl get config. kubectl get config map. So this is the config map in which our data of the nodes are saving, but it can be accessed to any of one. Secret is just opposite. We have to access it through our password, and everyone has not the chance to get it. Now we have covered all this part. Let's see, if we want to make our own ports through the YAML file, we can just touch, as like we are saying touch. Now if we want to create, firstly we want to create a deployment. So kubectl deployment is an abstraction over the code layer. Firstly the container, the code abstraction, and the deployment abstraction. Now we want to create the deployment, a new deployment of our kubectl create deployment. Deployment name, what are the deployment name? I want to give deploy one. kubectl create deploy one, and the image I want to run inside this, because it is the abstraction over the pod and the pod is the abstraction over the container. So we are not making the pod, we are not creating the pod, we are creating the deployment, and the deployment automatically creating the pod of that image. Now we want to run the image, which is redis. uh, Redis command is giving this is saying this is not. So deployment one. Now hyphen image, it is saying that metadata name is not valid. The lowercase letter is not consist of lowercase alphanumeric character this and this. So we have not used this over here, that's why it is giving an error. Hyphen image redis. Now we have seen deployment.apps, deploy one created. Now if we want to see what are the deployments, kubectl get deployments. Now we have created a deploy one which is not ready, up to date available. It is not ready, it is being ready. We can also, let's see what are the pods in all namespaces. Hyphen A is for all namespaces. And now if we want to describe it, we want to see what is inside a particular node, so we have to use kubectl describe pod and the name of the pod. Let's see if we want to see inside the one that we have created now, which is inside the namespace default. Now this is inside this that we have deployed, that we have created a back. This deploy one, this is the deploy one code ID, the name which is in the default namespace. So all these things is similar to that we have doing in Docker the inspect command for the container. It is also like this. We have to inspect the pod, what is the image running, what is the replica set, annotation and other things, config maps allotted and optional. Now if we want to see the replica set, kubectl get replica set. As we have seen, we have created a deployment and which is automatically creating the pod. That's why it is saying the desire is 1 and current is 1, because we have said to make a pod or to make a replica of this pod to be 1, and the current is also working 1, and ready is not there. This pod is not ready until now. If we want to create your own deployment or ingress or any component or anything to YAML file, so you have to first touch, for example I'm saying touch deployment 1.yaml. Now list, so this is your deployment file. Now if you go inside this and inside this you can declare your the thing that you want to deploy. In this case, as I want to see you, I'm not covering this part, but I'm only telling you how you can create things through YAML file. Deployment YAML file. Now seeing, so this is the thing that you have to mention in this file. API version, kind, deployment, API version, kind, deployment, metadata, specification. It is the part of the YAML file that I am not covering in this video. So after entering in this, you can just save it, and you can just save it. And after doing this, you can use this command kubectl create -y -f, and after that deployment dot yaml. This will automatically created your deployment over the thing that you have mentioned inside this. As I am not giving anything, that why deployment 1. So error no object passed to create, because we have not mentioned anything inside this. It is empty. Let's see. It is empty. Because it is empty, that's why it is saying no object is specified. But once you given this type of YAML file, once you give this type of YAML file into your deployment, this will automatically create what you want to mention through commands. So this whole is the basic commands of Kubernetes. How to access the namespace, how to access the pods, the services, the ingress, the split, the config map nodes, and how you can deploy through YAML file, how you can see the wide variety of ports, the IP of port, and other things that we have covered in this video. Thank you. If you like this video, please like this, and if you want any other video in the future, please let me